Following the deadly shooting in Oregon last week, Hillary Clinton unveiled her gun plans. Critics not happy about that. Judge Napolitano is here. Now, let me just walk away from Hillary's gun plan for a second. You've got an editorial in the Washington Times today, and it says, "We have a natural right to self-defense." Is that separate from the constitutional right, the Second Amendment? Is this something that has been there all along, a natural right?
Well, that's what the Supreme Court found in two very recent cases, one called Heller versus the District of Columbia and the other called McDonald versus Chicago. Both 5-4 decisions written by essentially the same court that we have today, when it characterized the right to keep and bear arms as a modern iteration of the ancient pre-political right to self-defense. Pre-political is a code phrase in constitutional parlance, meaning before the government, existing from our humanity. So my right to move my fist ends where your nose begins. If I don't respect that, you have the right to use your fist to defend yourself. Fast forward to a violent situation, you have the right, under this theory that the Supreme Court embraced and says is protected by the Second Amendment, to use the same equivalent or superior firepower to whatever your threat is.
So the Second Amendment is a natural outcome of the natural right to self-defense.
The Second Amendment is a written codification, according to the Supreme Court, a position with which I agree, of the natural right to self-defense. Mrs. Clinton last week, in a typical immediate overreaction to the slaughter in Roseburg, Oregon, ripped into those cases and profoundly disagreed with them and actually laid the basis for a President Hillary Clinton not enforcing them. Now, if she becomes president, she will take a law to uphold the Constitution and the laws faithfully. That means the provisions of the Constitution and the laws as interpreted by the Supreme Court, even when she disagrees.
Okay. Now, quick question, because we're almost out of time. Do you defend the right for myself or anybody else to defend themselves in any way they see fit at that moment of violence when they are threatened? Any way you like, defend yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Machine guns?
Well, the law requires proportionality, so you can't use a machine gun to go after a slingshot. But if somebody enters a no-gun zone, which under a constitutional theory is unconstitutional, because you can't, right to carry a gun is a fundamental liberty. The government can't arbitrarily say you can have a gun here and you can't have a gun there. A no-gun zone is the most dangerous place on the planet when a madman enters with a gun. So if somebody in the no-gun zone, like a school, has a gun, like this Iraq War veteran who used his body to keep the doors shut, saved his classmates, took 7 bullets himself and lived, if he had been allowed to carry his gun, this guy would not have killed 9 people.
Okay. We have to save it for another day, but the argument, do you want guns in the schools? You know, I mean, it's got to be another day.
In Israel, they're not only in the schools, the teachers are trained to use them, and these slaughters, these horrific things, don't happen.
Okay. Judge, it's a wonderful, a fascinating subject, and I really liked your editorial.
Oh, you're very kind to say that. Thank you. Now, when will the Federal Reserve let the free market fix interest rates, Mr. Varney?
Excuse me. Watch out. Watch